Now, do I recommend this movie? Yes, just go watch it and come back because the less you know, the better. Because there are some things about this film that would be more fascinating than you just watch it first than someone telling you. After you watch the film, just come back finish this review. But besides that, my name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, do reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, if you like how it's going, you'd like to help my channel, put like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you do, the only thing you do. And thank you for everybody who helped me pass 1,000 subscribers. And my new goal is past 2,000. Of course, it's a long goal, but I know I can do it. Thanks to you, whoever put like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's start with the review. Now, create a match in your friend, you set a sort of rules. Can I actually eat? Can I pass through doors? Can I actually chase a car and get to the car? Even that matching your friend can actually cannot touch doors or pass through walls. The reason why is because sort of the limitations what a matching your friend can actually do. And this is the thing that make this movie called The Imagineer so interesting because you sort of explore the idea what's the reason of imagining friend existence. The answer is pretty simple to help the kid who created him solve he or she or they own sort of problems. Whatever they have a sort of issue, the imaginary friend was created to actually help them. What if the person doesn't need the imaginary friends? Well, they die. At least that's what you think will actually happen, but it actually goes more creative. In fact, you actually ask this question: what if that imaginary friend doesn't want to die? What if this imaginary friend decides to eat other imaginary friends to live, and now hunting down other imaginary friends to survive? Even that is sort of wrong and messed up, and that's just sort of fascinating because how the world is built about imagination is just so interesting and fascinating, especially they attempted to answer that question with Emily and Roger because Emily is sort of kind of lonely, not lonely, it's more she's dealing with certain issues that she's tempted to figure out until she created Roger. Roger is just sort of a human being, a imaginary friend who helps Emily. But they sort of have a deal. They don't cry, don't panic, always have their backs. And they have imagination fun. They go to the top of the roof of the house and they lock themselves in the room and just play imaginary anything. And that's sort of the whole point of the beginning of the film to build this two characters' relationship. But something weird happened. This sort of stranger tempted to hunt Emily and Roger, specifically more Roger, because this person is not a real person. He's sort of an imaginary friend who actually became sort of a cannibal. He needs to eat other imaginary friends to survive. But this is the interesting part. Emily and Roger doesn't know what to do or what easy. In the very beginning, they're trying to push him away, but at the same time, Emily trying to figure out what her deal is, what happened to her father and her mother, how her mother trying to survive, how to figure out what to do in the next job. And she's not dumb. She's not stuck in her own little bubble that she knows her mom has had to basically carry the family's weight. In other words, trying to figure out what to do after her father passed away. But she needs attention to her mother, but that's why she created Roger. But the only problem is this thing, this creature wants Roger to eat him because he's hungry. But this is the twist. You think will be Roger's Emily's story. In a way, yes, but no. In fact, it's more Roger's story than actually Emily's. Because it asks that question, what's your point of existence? What is the reason why Emily created you? And Roger attempted to understand it or figure it out because if he doesn't, he probably would disappear because it served a limitation. Because when she grows up or dies or something bad happens to her, his existence is sort of running out if anything does happen. So he must sort of accept his sort of basically end that words. But I love that they sort of explored this film that even is based on the book called the same title, The Imaginary, that he is sort of understanding what you can do. Can you extend your life? Can you do something? Do in between trying to run away with this sort of person who tempted to eat him, but he doesn't get why he attempted to eat him. On top of this, you meet other imaginary friends and how the rules of imaginary friend actually work. And that's why it makes this movie just so interesting because you don't expect all the rules to be making sense, but it does. Because every time they follow the genre of imaginary friend type of genre, they usually sort of falls apart. That's usually a problem with this specific genre because you have rules after rules after rules, how everything is sort of built. In fact, at a certain point, I believed that this is not need to be animated, this needs to be a live action. But when it happens to the end, you kind of realize, yeah, this was a good choice to make this book to an anime series than an animated movie. I mean, a live action movie than an animated series because it does do a lot of creative things. But I think the most fascinating thing is what Roger needs to do to survive. Especially, he doesn't know what happened to Emily, that he tends to find her. But the only problem is the distant you are to the original kid you have, the more chance you disappear or die. And this is sort of the thing that makes Roger interesting. He attempted to figure it out, see other Imagineer friends, what they do. In fact, what they do actually there doesn't really need it anymore. They go a sort of town of imagination. That town of imagination sounds very basic, very made up, but how it was created is just so fascinating because this imaginary town is actually in a library because all the imagination comes from the library because of people keep reading and writing stories. And that is just kind of creative, especially how Roger kind of got picked up by this cat and he told him to go to this place and he's like, doesn't know what to do. He's so confused, but how the whole thing explore itself is just so fascinating, especially how Emily is sort of dealing with her problems of her father passing away, understanding her mother. She has a lot of things on her plate, and she knows she's tempting to not bother her, but she needs her attention, especially with this thing is chasing her. But also Roger trying to save her, but doesn't know what to do. Especially she's sort of something happened to her. I won't ruin it, but for a long time, for a long while, they separated, and that's a bad thing because it means a small chance Roger will eventually die, and that's the thing. Is sort of a timeline, trying to figure out, okay, how I can survive without enemy for a little while, or can I actually find her because how he was created, he cannot pass through doors or use anything or move anything because he's sort of imagination. Not just him, all the other imaginations do the same thing. If you create it, you can't pass through doors or use anything. You just stay in the house. And I love that sort of idea because they're stuck. But they see a sort of opening, like a window open or door crack. They just squeeze themselves in and move on only if they see a sort of door open. Like almost at the end of the film, there's one character sort of stuck in a house that he cannot pass through the doors or windows because how huge this character really is. The only entrance is sort of a small little door for pets, and this imaginary creature is a hippo, so he cannot fit to that small door. So he's stuck to disappear or die in that moment if the door doesn't open. And that is just sort of kind of creative and sort of dark. I mean, dark is like an understatement because this film does go dark. I mean, there's some places how they're talking about how what my imaginary friend was created, but he or she was created specifically to not sleep to protect the kid because their parents, or the kid's parents, were basically very violent. That's why he was created, just to stay awake and alert the kid. Yeah, I felt sort of interesting. They don't show the backstory. They just talking the reason why each imaginary friend they actually made. And some of them go dark, some of them not really, but also they add more extra stuff like you have to be careful when your kid grows up or something happens to that kid. You can't be readopted to someone else, but there's some conditions because depends on the kid because each kid is different for each imaginary friend because each imaginary friend has a sort of do something very specific for that kid. If you cannot do that thing, the only thing you do is sort of having fun with them for a little while and just follow another kid. But there are basically regulations like if this kid is super violent or super aggressive imagination, there's more chance that imaginary friend can actually die during that playtime. So they have to be very careful what they are, what they actually can do, and which kid is right for them because of that specific reason. Of course, there are something else added to it if that kid is adopt this imaginary friend, that imaginary friend for them, they completely change their anatomy. How they look like a let's say a clown. They don't look like a clown anymore. They're now a ballerina girl. Especially if the girl wants a girl, they get the imaginary frame becomes a girl. A boy wants a boy. If it was a girl, then he become a boy. And that just sort of interesting, especially how they lose their memories. And that is just intriguing because every time they talk to someone or someone another imaginary friend disappears, they just don't remember them. They just disappear. Like who are you talking to? Who are we talking to? And that's sort of kind of dark, and that's what's sort of fascinating because if they get adopted with a different person, they're losing their memories on top of all that. That's just sort of kind of interesting. It's one of those that put it this way: this film can easily be sequels. Like each single sequel, if they decide to make sequels, they can still explore the ideas of being disappeared, who created this sort of town, the reason why all the imaginary friends go to this town, how was created, who was the ringleader to help other imaginary friends, or why this thing became so hungry eating other imaginary friends, or there are actually more of them still out there. And that's the thing that makes this movie so interesting because it's just so many ideas they actually explore so well that you actually can explore so much more, especially how the kids are using imaginary friends to deal with their sort of issues. And that's probably the most interesting way to explore things. They do go in depth, like what's the person a reason you exist is to help the kid sort of deal with their problem. Like Emily dealing with her father death. Like he's there to give her answers, but it's a vice versa. Roger there is to help her to help Roger. And that's just sort of interesting. It's just sort of a very interesting way to explore imagination or imaginary friends. It's just so interesting and almost limitless. That's why it's just so fascinating. But of course, I do recommend it, but it does have one, two issues. The pacing is sort of kind of a little bit too slow sometimes. Not all the time. There's just one scene or two that I wish they cut off 2 to 3 minutes in that's it. Like this movie is like 2 hours long, about 2 hours. They just needed to cut me 3 minutes in that's it. That's the only complaint I have. And the how they get rid of the bad guy that was a way very creative way to get rid of him, but the only problem is they needed to add more context what's the situation because it makes sense, but at the same time you have to rewatch it a couple times to get how this bad guy dies. It's like they didn't explain what this specific person does something else. Then I wish they give it more better explanation or use another minute just or not just use another minute. Just I wish they established that specific thing a little bit more better in the film. Like give us a reason why this character this specific reason. I'm being vague here because I don't want to spoil the movie, but you get the idea. Now, besides that, the movie is great. I do highly recommend it. It's a long movie, it's completely worth it. But it's up to you if you like I kind of anime movies. Like that's the only thing. But I got nothing really else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.